Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's October the 28th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And I really saw this as a trading range day, and maybe the range ended way up here by the end of the day, but I saw most of the support or resistance right across this area right here, and you can see it was acting as support, or tried to earlier the overnight, and then it acted as resistance. Tried to act as support again. Then we got back in the range, and then we're trying to go higher yet still. So, but that's what I saw today. Not a lot of entries today, mostly only buys that I saw today. I didn't see anything. There's only one sale that I semi-liked, and it was a little dangerous because we were kind of trending up, but I'll talk about why, if you wanted to be a little aggressive, why, you might have taken that trade or liked that trade. But before we talk about the trades, I will say real quickly that the premium section on the website, that member section is open now. And the only reason I bring that up is because I wanted to give people the opportunity, if you're part of the premium member section, or decide you want to join it, if you want to send me some suggestions on things that you would like to see, what I try to do is not only write a article to go, but the main thing is to get the video out there, and give people a chance to ask for, uh, I'm basically just asking for suggestions on things that you'd like to see that I could talk about in more detail. So if you want to do that, send me the email. If you're part of that new member section, then send it to me. And but otherwise, let's move on to our chart lesson. The first trade, actually, I wanted to talk about this trade right here. Let me back out a little bit. The trend was down. We had a break of the trend channel right here. We had a retest. We pulled back, and we had a second entry short here. But let me show you why I drew that in the lavender color and didn't make that. I know at least one person took this trade because he sent me their chart and says, hey, it was a perfect second entry short. Why did it fail? And I'll show you what I saw. It is a second entry short. There is a double top. The bias is down, at least for that temporary channel right there. But remember, I made this comment the other day, if you've been watching the videos, the overall, if you look at that, if you back out and look at that, we've been trending up look at it. We've just been trending up since way back around the 1st of October. So the overall trend, look at it, just keeps going higher and higher. So there's an overall bias that's upwards. It's much stronger than any downward bias. So while the bias was downward for the short-term trend here, so that might have convinced you into going short. If you remember what I said a couple of days ago, maybe, that I'm more apt to buy near resistance at the top like this than I am to sell near resistance at the lows like so, because everything down the short side fails and the market keeps going higher because there's an overall long-term upward bias, and that's the reason that's happening. And so they're trapping people at the lows. So when you get a setup to go short, you better have enough room to scalp out before you get to the last low, or you better skip it. And notice there was the low of the overnight, and those are always important areas that get tested. And in this case, we've tested this low. We made that overnight low. We tested it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and then we finally went higher. And now we've tried to come back, and we're making higher lows and higher highs. So you just got to be real careful when you go short. You couldn't go short below that ball. It seems like their chart set up really nicely. It might have been a better setup than even what I have, but it still failed. But if you go back and look at their chart, I think I saved it. Let me see if I saved their chart, and we'll just pull it up and look at it. Do I have their chart here? Yeah, their chart looks much better than mine. Let me just download their chart real quick and then I'll slip it over here. But you can see on my chart, it's not a very nice setup because the second entry was right here. That's a bullish bar. So you couldn't get in until you really needed to wait on this bar. And guess what? By then, you've got this strong, and this, you know, you might have had this right here or like so. But there's still not enough room to get out before you get to that. And really the important, you know, knowing across there from that previous close of the overnight, and you can see that's where everything has been closing above that, and then we bounced right there again. So it was not a great setup for that reason because of that strong support across there. And it's the fact that it's a double bottom and this low is higher than this one, which that's going to be the case a lot of times on the second entry, but you need more room, especially on an overnight low or an overnight high, because those are always important areas that get tested a few times in a lot of cases. So that's really about the only thing I could tell you about that. But here's the other chart the people sent me, and you can see they had a nice bearish bar there, and there might have even been a little more room on their chart to get out than mine. It looks like one, two. Looks like that was probably a 4-tick failure, but when it bounced right there and created that doji and closed way back up here, when it went back down there again and started bouncing again, you know, that's a clue. You might want to exit that. But these people also asked me, when does this become a failed second entry short? And the second entry short triggered when prices broke below that bar right there. And so this became a failed second entry the minute any bar afterwards breaks higher before it reaches a scalper's profit. So when it broke above this bar right here, that's when it's considered a failed second entry short. And you could have reversed there and got all your money back. I think it would have 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you would have scalped right out and got your money back by reversing right there. And so that's, you know, it's a failed second entry. It's a failed second entry the minute, in this case we're looking at down, so the minute any bar that's in gets prices break above it after the second entry triggers and before it reaches a scalper's profit, then that's considered a failed second entry. It failed because prices were able to work higher instead of continuing on lower, and so that's not a good sign. And then so as soon as that happened, you should have been looking for another leg like this one. You can see there's one leg, and then the second leg is right there, and it's probably a perfect measured move. I don't know. I haven't measured it, but let's measure it on my chart. And you see it doesn't look as good on my chart as it did theirs, but there's leg one, and there's leg two, and look, it's a perfect measured move. And there just happens to be two legs in that leg, and there's really two legs in this leg. You can see it moves up, pulls back, and goes higher. And so that's a, you know, that's a perfect measured move, and the second leg just has two legs within it. And then look, you get two legs down, and then you get this leg here, and I bet you it's a measured move compared to that move. So even though there's two legs in there and a two-legged correction, it's still one leg on a bigger picture. And then look, there's your measured move. It got one extra tick there. So hopefully that makes sense to you. But that's why I did that one in lavender, because I'm guessing a lot of people probably got trapped there. But don't lose sight of that strong support across there. And that's why it couldn't get lower. It couldn't get below that support. And they even came back and tried it two more times and made a higher double bottom. And that's a sure sign that it's going higher. But here's a trap. The reason I drew that one in blue is because it's a failed second entry short. It's a short trap, so you go long there. Easy scalp. They did come back and get the runners, but then you get a second entry long here after another failed second entry short. Notice the new high, first entry, pull back, or the new, actually, you could count that as a new low, but I'm really counting it as a second entry off the high. First entry, pull back, second entry, fails, turns and goes higher. You go long right there, another easy. And it's really a second entry too, if you notice this, off the new high, first entry, pull back, and then a second entry. So there's even a second entry there. It's really that bar is the one you would have gone long above right there. But this is still your signal bar for all, you know, where you got to consider this is still your signal bar, but it triggered above this little inside bar. That's when it became a failed second entry, when it broke above any bar before it got its before it completed the scalper's profit, and that was right there. And I'll move that again just so you can see. That's when it went higher, so that's when it was a failure. And notice it even came down, and it did have a, here, you might consider that a low, first entry pullback, second entry. So it's even a failed second entry there. You don't want to go long there because you're too close to the high. Same reason you didn't want to go low on this one. But it would have worked all the same. On a trap, you don't really have to have a perfect setup, and you don't have to have a perfect signal bar either, because it's a trap, and there's you know what happens on traps, and if you understand how traps work, you realize why you don't really need a perfect. And let's talk about this short right here. I drew this one in green. It's very aggressive, but this is almost trading range looking right here, and you can see that there's kind of a range across there like so, and we failed out and we broke out and failed once, and then we tried to get out, and then we finally broke out again, and of course it fails and comes back, and that just had kind of moved up a little right across there, and you can see that there's a double top right there. We kind of broke above it and failed. So that's one reason to think maybe going short. The other is that it's a retest of this breakout up here, and that's what they were gunning for. That's why prices were coming up there, and that's what they were trying to do, come back and retest this double bottom that we broke. See how we broke through and never came back and retested that? Prices almost always come back and retest it. But you've also got a channel here, and it's very clear, it's very pronounced, and we overshot it. Normally I don't like shortening an overshoot of a channel, but there was still this kind of downward move here that we might get another attempt to go lower and get another, and plus we didn't really have a retest in place, so there's a chance you could come back. And if you are going to get a break of a trend channel or a trend line, it usually happens if you get an overshoot. A lot of times that's when you'll get the break on the other side, and that would have been another clue not to go long right here because we had this break. But secondly, look at all that overlap. Look at all those bars, and there was never a trigger. You might have thought about going long right there, but that's a first entry. You had an overshoot, and this was very bearish, and that didn't close on its high. It's a first entry. You got this trend line that there's no break of yet. We did kind of get outside it, but nothing's closed outside it, and it didn't get outside it till here, and it comes back and retests it, and then it goes higher, and that's what you want to see. And so when this happened, you had to consider this is really strong support down here, and you might even want to go long right there. But hopefully that makes sense on why you might consider this long right here. It's aggressive, but if you're looking at this as a possible trading range or a possible another start of another leg down, a possible retest, you're way away from the EMA, and you're overdue to snap back, especially when you've been in this is kind of a trading range, so it's probably going to come back and retest it. A lot of reasons to think maybe going short. So if you want to be aggressive, wait on that bar, wait on a break of it, use a limit order. It was an easy trade. So, and then again, coming down here, it's always better to wait on a second entry. But it's kind of aggressive going long right there. But this is proven to be strong support, and you can see how many times we bounced, we couldn't close. Look at that all the way across there, using the closes and the most touches. That's what you see. And so wait on a second entry. You might have even thought about going long right there, but by that time you've got a bunch of, notice there's a bunch of overlap. I would wait on another attempt to come down, and then you get a failed second entry short, and then a chance to go long. Notice this, a new low, first entry, pull back, second entry, and then it fails. So if you go long, right there is where it fails when it breaks above that, and look at it go, and any runners would have been safe, and you could still be riding those runners. For that matter, they never, even when they came back here, they didn't get it. And notice that 2 legs back right there, 2 pretty much measured moves back. I didn't like this setup because of all the overlap. It's a first entry. Notice the new high, pull back, and it's just a first entry. But by the time it triggered, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 overlapping bars, kind of stacked side by side, multiple dojis in there. Same thing here, just not a good setup. And then you finally get a little two-legged move back here. This is really kind of looks like a first entry, but notice the new high, the pull back, you go try to go up again and then a leg back, but that's a big reversal bar. It's right at the trend line. Now you've got a confirmation of this trend line. Notice that you didn't have anything but a couple of closes. So now you got something to work with, and you just test that same area and you bounce right off of it. You got a little confirmation. It's kind of like a breakout pullback long. I was tempted to make this one green because you're so close to these highs, but it's just like I've said before, I'm more tempted to go long right here than I am to go short anywhere down here because the overall bias is long. And you hadn't had a break of this channel yet. You might have even had this over a little more like so. And I don't think that's wrong right there either. It kind of looks better there now after the fact. So you still hadn't had a break. You didn't get a break till right here. Then you made a new high, and then it started correcting. I like this long because even though it was a break, this is a breakout pullback long, but you waited. Notice the little two-legged pullback. You don't want to go long right there. That's a terrible bar. You might have considered going long above that one because now you got a second entry that any break above that bar is a failure. But when it came down here and broke lower again, and so now you've tested this area twice and the EMA held a break above that, you got to take that because now you've got a double failure to the low side, and that was an easy scalp. You didn't get anything else, but it made its new high, and then you got two legs of correction, and then it's been kind of trending up through the close again. And that was really the last trade I circled today. That got you into 1 o'clock, the 1 o'clock hour, and I don't see anything I liked here. There's no real good setup to go short, and you don't want to be going long. We never got a failed second entry long here to take advantage of. You might have thought about going long down here if it wasn't so late in the day because you had your two legs down. And let's just see if they're measured. They're close enough to be, consider, hey, yeah, it's a measured move, and you can see it's one tick difference. So you've got an extra tick down there. There it is, and you bring it down, and there it is, and you got one extra tick. So, most times I may have liked, especially I would have liked the long once it made that little trap right there and then turned up. You could have gone long right there. Whew. Look at it go. And you figure it's coming back to at least here and maybe even test this, and that's where it went. So that's what I saw today. And just looking, I really like that right there for your channel. It fits really well there. It bounced it more times. There. It kind of broke, and then it retested, and it tested it from the low side, but it made a new high too, and then went on down. So that's what I saw today. Not a lot of entries today. We spent most of the day in from 52 to 57.50 basically. So 6-point range, and where you really get burned on those is usually in the middle. And that would, you might have gotten burned on that unless you went short, and I don't like going short out of that anyway. So you got to be real careful. But that's what I saw today. Hopefully you had a good trading day. I hope that helps, the people, the couple that asked me about this failed second entry short. They seem to be looking, I think their strategy is they're looking for second entries, but you got to take the whole picture into, you got to understand when it's a failure. And, there are times when you see prices tick higher here and still go lower. So you got to be careful. Just because it ticks higher doesn't mean it's going to be a failure. But if there's enough reasons for it to be, like you got this low right here and you test it 2 more times, we know the rule that says, if the market attempts to do something twice and fails, it's probably going to go much further in the other direction. So you got a new low and you tested it twice. And, that's a failed second entry short, a trap. It's down here at these lows. It's really close to the EMA, but I still like that for a long trap, simply because a lot of people got trapped short there, especially on his chart, the way his chart looked, because it looked better than even mine, to be honest, because of that big bullish bar on mine, and then by the time the bearish bar closes, it's back down here at support, and mine's not nearly as pretty. And I could see, you know, getting trapped on that. I mean, I guarantee they trapped a lot of people, and you could see how it exploded up out of there, and that's why, because all these people that got short here realized they made a mistake and they exited. Um, but it still didn't have everybody convinced we were going longer till they did the same thing again, and then it went higher, and then it takes on off. So, you can usually tell how good the trap was by how fast prices move. And this was a good example here. This tricked a lot of people, and my guess is a lot of these longs that were in here had to exit too. But look right here, people were thinking long, and then it got hung up. And when it goes lower, notice where how it kind of gets this quick burst down. Well, all these longs had to exit because they realize now, hey, we're going lower. I'm wrong. We're not going higher from here. And just looking to see if I see, here's kind of another one where all of a sudden it bursts lower because all these people that had gotten long up through here realize, hey, we're going shorter. I got to get out to save any profit or to keep from having a loss, depending on where they got in on the way up. So I hope that is, helps you understand what's going on and why you might skip a second entry like that. You need to have room to get out before you get back, especially if it's the overnight high or the high of the day or the low of the day, unless it's a runaway trend. And while this looks like a good trend, we had a break of a trend line here, so it's not, you're already getting a signal that something may change, and then there's a lot of overlap right in there. And by the time this triggers on mine, you've got a lot of overlap. That's definitely congestion, a failed break, a snap back, then a test again, and then boom, they got everybody trapped and it goes the other way. So I hope that, that's about the only thing you can see there that might keep you out of that, other than, when you get a setup, you want it to be as close to the EMA as you can. But that doesn't always happen. And, there's some instances where this might have been a great second entry short, but it just didn't turn out to be at this time because we were testing this strong support, and that held all day long. That was the lowest point of the day, and we never could even get close to that again. So it just shows you that's, people perceive the market to be a value at this price, and they're buying it. So, and you don't want to be selling at the same place other people are perceiving the market to be at value, because you're going to be selling exactly where you need to be buying and so forth. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap this thing up. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.